The peace of Christ be with you. This is a midweek reflection for Third Reformed Church on May 6th. If you've been tuning into the YouTube channel here for the Sunday messages, you'll know that the last couple of weeks we've been working through the book of 1 Peter. Peter himself is a fascinating character in the New Testament. One of my favorite scenes with him comes at the end of John's Gospel after the story of the resurrection, when the disciples have returned to their home region of Galilee. And John includes this beautiful line in which Simon Peter turns to the other disciples and says, "I'm going fishing." After 3 intense years of following Jesus and the incredibly disruptive experience of the Passover in Jerusalem that led to the crucifixion and reports of the resurrection, Peter's impulse is to get back on the water. Something I can appreciate. He goes back to what's known, what's comfortable, what's normal, what I'm sure brought him a sense of peace. And Jesus meets him in that space and says, essentially, what you just went through was hard. You may not feel like you handled it all that well, but it's time for a new beginning. He gives him an opportunity for a hard reset, to make some conscious decisions about what his life is going to look like moving forward, to establish some new priorities. He doesn't just let Peter settle back into what once felt normal. He invites him to a new season. And I've been thinking about that story as we continue to make our way through the Great Pause. Way back a couple months ago, when I did the first midweek reflection, I said that this great pause we're experiencing as a society has the potential to produce a lot of good if we let it. And I think that's the key, intentionality, to make a conscious decision to evaluate what life was before this pandemic, what felt normal back in February and the months before that, and to decide how much of that we want to pick back up and where we may want to make some conscious decisions to set some new priorities, to let this be a reset. On April 10th, there was an article published to the Forge blog called "Prepare for the Ultimate Gaslighting," which has gotten a lot of circulation on the internet. And I'll include a link to that article in the description below this video. I think the author did a fantastic job of encouraging us to wake up and to make some conscious decisions about what we want our lives to look like on the far side of this pandemic. He points out that a lot of what felt normal probably never should have been normal. Some of the patterns that have led to deep economic inequality, to environmental abuses, to schisms in our community that have made mutual understanding and compassion difficult. He encourages us to not just settle back into patterns of mindless consumerism, to not just pick back up where we left off with lives that are overscheduled and too busy and hectic. And I think that that's absolutely key for us right now. In just a few days next week, the current executive order here in Michigan expires, and things are going to start accelerating around us as the great pause hits the resume button. And I think it would be a shame if we missed this opportunity to make some conscious decisions about what we want to pick back up and how we want to shape our lives on the far side of this experience. And so I would love to encourage you, if you've got the time and the emotional energy this week, to do some of that work, to evaluate what felt normal back in February, how much of that you want to resume. It might mean maybe making a list with 3 different columns, one titled what we want to let go of from life before, what we are eager to pick back up from life before, and what we want to add to life before. It may be work that you do as an individual or with a partner or as a family. For me, that might sound something like this, that I want to let go of buying takeout lunch so often, because it turns out with just a little bit of foresight, I can eat healthier and cheaper bringing along food from home. And I'm eager to pick back up relationships in person, to not just rely on connection mediated through a screen or over the phone line, but to invest in building connection face to face with people. And maybe that I want to add back in a higher number of family meals sitting around the same dinner table, acknowledging that that means I'll need to protect my calendar and not put on so many evening meetings or commitments so that that can be possible. The possibilities are endless for what might make that list for us. But I think the important thing is doing the work, being intentional about it, and not missing this hopefully once in a lifetime opportunity to see what life feels like when everything hits the pause button. So I would love it if you would kind of engage that conversation with me, explore some of that work, and maybe even share some of what makes the list for you when you think about what you want to let go of, what you want to pick back up, and what you want to add into your life as we are hopefully emerging out of this great pause. And if you would be willing to share those in the comments below this video, I would love to read that. For me, it's really helpful to have what feels like a little bit of online conversation going on so that we can remain connected and encouraging each other in this kind of work, even while we're not yet able to gather together. So hopefully that day is coming soon when we can be in the same space and have some of these conversations in person. But until then, I pray that God might continue to meet you in the great pause, and that with intentionality and purpose, you could emerge out of this time with a new set of priorities, taking this chance to hit the hard reset button on your life as an individual or as a family, and make a conscious decision about how you want to shape life on the other side.